So the Nintendo Switch is almost 7 years old, if you can imagine. There were so many things that were going on in the past 7 years. I didn't even have a YouTube channel or even consider making one back then, but the Nintendo Switch is actually one of the main reasons why I started this channel, and I want to talk about all the goods, the bads that were going on with the Nintendo and the Nintendo Switch specifically in the past 7 years, how this managed to change the whole gaming market, because believe it or not, it had a really big factor in the gaming market in the past 7 years. What I wish we had more going on with the Nintendo Switch, but especially what I really hope we will get with the Nintendo Switch 2, because this year might be the year where we actually get a new upgrade for the Nintendo consoles. So let's get to the video. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about what was going on with Nintendo back then. You may not remember because it was a long time ago, but Nintendo were quite struggling back then, and you probably already know this, but after a successful Nintendo Wii, we got the Wii U, which was actually a big fail if you now look back, and not even that, even in those times, you could see that the Wii U was a big failure. It had to do with marketing, most of all, but there were a lot of factors that made the Wii U to be not so successful, and that's why Nintendo really had to come up with something big if they wanted to rejoin the whole gaming market. Back then, PlayStation was a big player in this whole market, Xbox were doing their thing as well, so that's why Nintendo had to come up with something big. And I think their biggest selling point was making a handheld console that also was powerful enough to play the big titles on a big screen TV. Even back then, the hardware was not that great, and we'll get back to that one in a minute, but having a device that was allowing you to play your games on a handheld but also on a TV, I think that was the biggest selling point. And you may argue that they were not the first who did this. Actually, even Nintendo was doing something similar back then with the Game Boy Advance, and I'll not go into details, and you could argue even the Wii U was a device that was doing something similar to some extent. So that's why some people were a bit skeptical, because why would this work? It wasn't the first time this was tried out, but I think they nailed it. It's not even an argument anymore, because the Nintendo Switch is actually the third best-selling console out there. The PlayStation 2 is still the king, and the second place is for the Nintendo DS, also Nintendo, but the Switch is really close. So sales were through the roof, and 7 years later, here we are. You know that the Nintendo Switch was a success. With all its perks, with negatives, hardware-wise and all that, there isn't an argue anymore. The Nintendo Switch was a big success. If you followed my channel, you know that I'm a big handheld guy. So even before the Nintendo Switch, I was still a big fan of all the other handhelds, Nintendo included. We had the 3DS, we had the PS Vita, call it however you want, but I still wanted one. And having a dedicated big title console from one of the big producers, so from Nintendo, I think this revolutionized the whole market. You can see what we have now today. I do think that without the Nintendo Switch, we would not have the Steam Deck or the ROG Ally and all the newer consoles that now are coming out. Even Sony back then decided that they don't want to do handhelds anymore, because apparently the mobile gaming was a big thing and they will kill off any handhelds consoles. But boy, they were wrong, and Nintendo had to go all in. They had to try it, because otherwise Nintendo would be in a big trouble. So I'm glad they played this handheld card, and the rest is history. And I'm really happy that one of the big players decided to go this route. And I think it was perfect match for Nintendo. They needed something really cool, really important that could revolutionize the market, and handheld market really needed someone, a big player, to come join. I think in the end it was a perfect fit, and I really hope that they learn from their mistakes, because if history taught us anything about Nintendo, usually they go with a really big console, then the second one is not so great. The Wii and Wii U is a very good example, and now people are thinking that maybe the Switch 2 will be in the same boat as the Wii U, so the second iteration of a good console will not be that great. And maybe Nintendo believes it, and that's why we still have the Switch 1 or whatever after 7 years. I do think that they played their cards right. The Nintendo Switch is still selling amazingly. games are still coming out, not necessarily from Nintendo, even though we still got a couple of good releases like Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, but people are still enjoying the Nintendo Switch. So coming out with the Nintendo Switch 2 will actually be bad from their marketing point of view, but I really hope that this is the year we get one, and I'm pretty sure that the sales will be really good. But it all depends on what Nintendo are doing. If it will be just a refresh, just a bit more powerful than the Nintendo Switch, they will keep the same form factor, it will look almost the same, or just bring a couple of things here and there like an improved controller or whatever, then I think that's not the way forward, because after 7 years people truly want a successor for the Nintendo Switch. So what do I want in a Nintendo Switch 2? Well, if you want the short answer, just improve on the Nintendo Switch and that's it. You should be fine. But that's not as easy as said, because we do need a couple of things. As I mentioned before, if you'll just upgrade the hardware but anything else will be the same, then I'm sure that it will go the same route as the Wii U. So that's why I have a couple of things that me personally I would want in a Nintendo Switch 2. I really hope it's called a Nintendo Switch 2, to be honest, because I want them to keep on growing this universe, because it's a really important factor, as I said, in this market. But who knows, maybe they will actually consider the naming like they did with the Wii U and with the Wii. Even though they were completely different consoles, people still thought that it's almost the same console, so they didn't buy the new one. So maybe that could also be a strategy, and now Nintendo will go in a different route. But you see that this worked for some other manufacturers like Sony. We had the PS1 and now we have the PS5, so having iterations is also good. But it all depends on Nintendo, and they really have to analyze this thoroughly, and I know they will analyze the history, and I'm expecting that they will actually give it another name, but who knows, let's see. Now, about the improvements that I want in a Nintendo Switch 2. First of all, as I said, better hardware, definitely. Because even back then, when the Nintendo Switch 2 was released, the hardware was not the best. The processor was actually a couple of years old already, and while this worked and we had so many titles that run decently on the Nintendo Switch, it definitely showed its age even back then, and you see other developers that have tried porting their games to the Nintendo Switch. We had Witcher, which was decent at its best, and we have a couple of examples, but you'll see that the first party are the only ones that run better, and not even that. You see Zelda, which is a really big game, it runs decently, don't get me wrong, but for sure we would need better graphics and especially better frame rate, and having that on a Nintendo Switch 2, it's a must. We need newer hardware. Don't do this again, Nintendo, you have a success already. Now bring in the big guns, bring a current gen processor or maybe even a next gen. You have partnerships that you can do with the big producers, so I really hope that a proper CPU will be the way forward with the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, we do have a couple of them already out there, like we got in the ROG Ally, we have the Z1 Extreme, and I'm pretty sure they are already working on a newer model with better performance. So I think that Nintendo can come up with a really good hardware for the Nintendo Switch successor, and the Steam Deck, ROG Ally, Legion Go and whatever are the perfect example that we can get really good games on a handheld in today's market. Now, it cannot compare with a PS5 or Xbox, and I don't think Nintendo really wants that, because in the end, if they still decide to go with a handheld console, then you will not get the same performance as a dedicated console. But they could work on something else, like they could have a docking option as well that will improve the performance. They could have an external GPU or whatever. I'm pretty sure they will not do that, but this is an example that I would really want Nintendo to follow. Having something that would boost the performance in the docking station, and for those who want to play on TV mostly, they can do that, but then have a really decent processor and other components in a handheld. It's something that we need. At least bring it to the level of the ROG Ally, and I'm really hoping that's not the case. I really hope that it will be a bit more powerful, but if you do bring it at least to that level, I think most people will be okay with it. Just figure out the battery life, because the ROG Ally battery life, it's a really big mess. So be careful with that one, Nintendo, because the battery life on the Nintendo Switch is actually pretty good. If you compare it to the other newer models, the Steam Deck, ROG Ally and all that, is not even close. Now, if I'm talking about performance, first of all, I want to see the Nintendo first-party titles in better graphics, and I can already imagine, and you've probably seen the mods for the Zelda games on a PC, 4K, better texture, it looks amazing, and I would like to have something like that on a Nintendo console. But mostly better frame rates, it's something that we need, because Zelda sometimes even plays like in 15 FPS or whatever. Sometimes it struggles, so you know what I'm talking about. And you've seen other games like the newer Pokemon, it runs horribly because the hardware is very old. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about the first party titles. What I want in a successor for the Nintendo Switch, it's good support for third-party titles and not indie. I'm talking about AAA games, and we did have a couple of them already released on the Nintendo Switch, but those are not it. I want proper games with proper graphics, good FPS that will run on Nintendo Switch. Before the Steam Deck came, you cannot imagine how much I wanted games like GTA 5 or Mafia or God of War and whatever on the handheld console. And now we can do that. Well, not God of War because it's a Sony exclusive and I doubt that they will come on the Nintendo, but you get my idea. Having first-party titles, GTA, Red Dead Redemption, Need for Speed, Assassin's Creed, whatever, we can have proper gaming on a Nintendo console. As much as I enjoyed the first-party titles and I know that it's their biggest market, I really hope that they can bring AAA games to their console, because with a powerful enough console, then we can do that. And I know they were trying this in the past. The Nintendo Wii U had a couple of games like Assassin's Creed and a couple of others, so they can still come up with this one. So that would be a big change from the Nintendo Switch. Now, continuing on the hardware part, I want to talk about the ergonomics. As you can see, I have a case on my Nintendo Switch OLED over here. It's one from Kiwi Home. I'll link it down below. It's not a sponsored video, but I made a full video about it and I really enjoyed this case. It adds better ergonomics here around the Joy-Cons. The Nintendo Switch is not the most ergonomics console out there. While it's small and it's portable, you can take it with you on the go, a lot easier than the Steam Deck, let's say. I still prefer ergonomics when I play handheld, because after a while your hands are starting to hurt when you're playing the Nintendo Switch, and that's why I got a grip case over here, and I really hope that they analyze this and do a better job next time. And I understand why they did it like that in the first place, because having the possibility of removing the Joy-Cons and using them as a standalone controller, it's an amazing idea. I did use it a couple of times, but only for a couple of titles like Mario Kart while I was on the go with friends, but mostly that was it. And I would understand that removing the Joy-Cons beats the whole idea of having an ergonomics, because that will be really hard to use separately. But I really want ergonomics. Maybe they can do something like this. And as you can see, I have this case over here, and if I remove the Joy-Cons, it's easily doable, and I still have this case in place and I can put it back. So they can do something like that. You can still have a small part that can be detached and put in a Pro controller or whatever, and I think they can still do it. And by the way, I really hope that we get a proper controller when you remove the Joy-Cons. I don't know if they'll continue on doing that, but having that grip controller, while it's a decent idea, is not the best controller out there, and I really hope that they can do something with that one. You do get the Pro controller separately, but I really hope that we get a proper grip controller with the Joy-Cons that we already have. And talk about controllers, I wish that Nintendo finally brings us adaptive triggers, because the triggers on the Nintendo Switch are just a plain button. They're not adaptive like we have in PlayStation and Xbox, and I know that their titles don't really need this, but if we get AAA games, then we need adaptive triggers. Like in shooting or racing games, we need adaptive triggers, and I really hope that this time Nintendo will go ahead and do it. Now is the time that we'll switch to it, no pun intended. And to finish off the hardware part, I will not say about the OLED screen, because I know they'll probably not do it, because the first iteration needs to be as cost effective as possible so it will sell well, and maybe they'll come up with another version, an OLED version like they did with the first Nintendo Switch. So I'm okay with having an LCD screen as long as it's a good quality one. But what I want from the successor of the Nintendo Switch is to keep the backwards compatibility. I know Nintendo were pretty good in the past with keeping the backwards compatibility between their consoles, and I really hope they'll continue on doing with this one. I know that Nintendo Switch was not compatible with the Wii U, but that's because they were using discs. But now we have the cartridge, and I know it's a critical point because the cartridges, the one that Nintendo is using, are not the best one. The size of it is pretty small. They can go up to, I believe, 64 gigs, and those ones are pretty expensive. I believe that the game producers would have to pay like half of their income whenever they release a game on that kind of a cartridge, because it was very expensive. I believe $25-30 only for the actual cartridge itself. So that's why we got releases with a physical card, but you mostly had to download it from online anyway. But first of all, I want Nintendo to keep that backwards compatibility. If they continue on using cartridges, I would simply just want the port to be there, right? So a lot of you out there know that have a really big library, and there are people out there that are collecting stuff, so they still want to enjoy their games on a newer model. Maybe even the other titles, they can upgrade them with improved graphics, like Zelda. Who doesn't want to play that one in better graphics? So I simply want that to be present. If they want to go all digital, then that's fine, even though the cost would actually be pretty big because they would need to add some pretty big storage. And yeah, I think that could work. If they look at the Steam Deck, ROG Ally, they can use an SSD like the small factor, the 2230 model. And they can put like 512 gig on it, and it should be decent enough for the beginning, and you can always add an SD card. So if they want to go with the digital only part, I would get why they want to, and I would be fine with that, but at least give us the possibility of playing the Nintendo Switch cartridges on this newer model. That's everything that I want from that point of view, and I would be okay with that. And talking about backwards compatibility, I would really hope that they will keep improving and adding new games into their online consoles. You know that if you pay for the online subscription, then you'll get a couple of older titles like from Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, NES, SNES, and all that. There are different applications for different consoles, and they're adding more and more each month, I believe. So I still want to get those ones. It's not the same with the virtual console that we had in the Nintendo 3DS. By this time, I think it's good enough, and if they continue on adding new games, and then I would be fine with it. But I really hope they continue on doing that, and hopefully they will get also some Nintendo 3DS titles out there. I'm not sure how that would work. Maybe we can use that while dock to have a second screen, because emulating 3DS titles, it's a bit hard because of the two screens. But maybe that would be something for the Nintendo Switch 2 to have two screens. I don't know. Me personally, I would really like to have that one, but I'm pretty sure they will not go that route again. And the 3DS at this point is pretty much dead. And I'm not expecting Nintendo to release different consoles for handheld and TV. I'll think they will just keep one console that can do both. So I think that's the present and also the future for Nintendo. I think that would work great for them. I did forget to mention about the Joy-Cons. If they still use the detachable one, and I hope they do, I want them to continue on releasing games and having this functionality that you have with the Joy-Cons, like the IR Blaster, the move functionality. I really hope they can keep those ones, because even though it's not something that I regularly play, I'm actually looking that I have the Ring Fit Adventure right over there. It's something that I rarely play, to be honest, but it's something that Nintendo did for so long, and I really hope they continue on doing. With this strategy, I know a couple of people out there that bought a Nintendo Switch just for this kind of titles. They like to have fun. The Wii Motion ones, like sports and whatever, the Ring Fit Adventure, these are just some examples for gaming that is just fun. It's not necessary for the hardcore gamers out there, but it's something that people actually enjoy using. They do parties, and I myself even did a couple of them a while back. People coming over, and we just had a bit of fun with the motion controllers. And another thing from hardware perspective, and to be honest, I don't think that will go away anytime soon, but I just wanted to point it out. I really hope they keep the amiibo functionality because it's something, again, that it's part of the Nintendo history. And while it's a gimmick, it's something that has been around for Nintendo for a while now. And at this point, most people are actually using this just to be part of their collection. So not necessarily to properly use them in games. But I hope they still keep the support for amiibos. They will keep releasing amiibos. These are just some fun figurines and I like collecting. I don't have too many, to be honest. I have like 5 or 6, but I really hope that amiibo functionality doesn't go away anytime soon, and I don't think it's a really big thing to keep with the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, from the software point of view, I think there are a lot that can be improved. The Nintendo Switch, even after 7 years, it's really bad when it comes to customization. We only get 2 themes still, the white and black, and that is it. And this is just customization. I get that it's not necessarily a big part, but having a system that's your own and make it in your liking, I think it's a must. Another big part when it comes not necessarily to OS, but the experience itself in general, but I truly hope they will bring a trophy system. PlayStation has it, Xbox has it. Without the trophy system, I know for sure that I would not go and collect everything. So sometimes this works for me, considering that I get a reward if I collect and put the grind in it. If I get the trophy, then sometimes I go with it, but I'm not the greatest example. I know a lot of you out there that are collecting these kind of trophies, and I really hope that Nintendo will do that. I don't know what you think about that, or if it's something that you think it was missing from the Nintendo consoles, but I really like to know what you think about it, so drop a comment down below. So all around, I think these are my main improvements that I want in the new Nintendo console. This is my personal opinion, and I really think that we get some of the improvements. Some of them are a must for me, like the improved hardware, and I know that I will get that, but I really hope that it will not be just a tiny bit more power than the Nintendo Switch. And the backwards compatibility, it's again one other thing that I truly want. Maybe some of the others are not necessarily that important and we can live without, like themes or trophies, so the ones that I mentioned. In the end, I just wish that Nintendo listens to the fans. They made an amazing console with all its limitations. It was still a success. Time will tell, and to be honest, I'm really wishing that we get that one soon. Who knows, maybe we'll actually get a confirmation by the 7th of March when the Nintendo Switch turns 7 years old. Who knows, maybe there's a strategy. By then, maybe we'll get an official confirmation that a new successor will come out. But I really want to hear from you, and that's why let's have a chat in the comments and talk about all the rumors, everything that will going on, and what's your experience in these 7 years with the Nintendo Switch. Tell me about your experience, what you're hoping on getting with the Nintendo Switch 2, and I'll see you over there. So that's it for this video. Thank you for hearing me rambling about consoles once more. If it were for me, I would keep on talking about these. But until my next video, you can see this one over here, where I'll talk about the PS Vita 2 leaks that were going on last week. So see you over there. That's it for this video. This is the Tech Unravel, and I'll catch you in the next one.